You're listening to Wanna Coffee with Kai Alicia.
And Adriana.
Talking
Random.
sensible
shit.
It's nice, isn't it? I have to admit, it is nice.
It's comfortable sometimes to keep quiet. It supports the life or the beliefs that you have. Being silent, being comfortable, trying not to, raise your hand, raise your voice for that matter, because
Or make anyone feel bad or rustle any feathers.
Uncomfortable, because sometimes you think that when I'm bad, people will take it personally, and people sometimes don't see of what is causing this lack of comfort in your life, or lack of whatever you're feeling that is needed or violated in your life. With that in mind, do you think silence is good or bad or necessary evil sometimes?
I go back and forth with this. I try not to be judgmental about it. I try to have an open mind about silence. I practice being silent in my life a lot. Even though I'm like super talkative and super expressive, I practice being silent in action in many ways. I have to admit that during this time in American history, during what I think is a civil war, a war against Black people, which has started a long time ago in America, I think it's unfair to be silent. And I'm saying that with some bias, because it's happening to me and my community. But maybe to another community, maybe I would be silent. And I'm reminded of this quote, "It's always funny when it's not happening to you."
That's true.
By, who is it? Will Rogers? And it's true, During this time, an Instagram post or a Facebook is not necessarily going to change history, and it doesn't really say much about where you stand on these issues. It can, but also it doesn't really properly illustrate as much as action does. And for many of my friends who are not Black, it really pains me. A small thing like a social media post says you're engaged, you're current, and you support me, even if you don't know what to do,
Exactly.
And so it hurts me. It's that Martin Luther King post where he says, we're not going to remember the actions of our enemies, but we'll remember the silence of our friends. That's what's lasting. You and I went back and forth as to whether or not we were going to do this, if we were going to talk about it, because really, this was really started. This whole Wanna Coffee was, started because we really wanted to make light of our situation and draw attention to the wonderful things that are happening in our lives and in this world. And we wanted to keep up with that, as opposed to talking about all the injustices that continue to occur on a day-to-day basis, whether they have to do with racial discrimination or not.
But sometimes there are things that shouldn't be ignored, as painful as they are. They cannot be ignored, and maybe we are not being beacons of knowledge here. I am not, because I'm not new to the subject, but I'm very, like you say, it's not happening to me. It's not happening in my house. So I don't have that much knowledge. Again, that doesn't imply that I shouldn't be talking about it, because something I know is true, that this is wrong, that racism is wrong, is bad, it shouldn't be happening, and you have to say something against it. It's not happening to you, it's not happening in your house, but see it as a problem. see America's a marriage of so many different people with different backgrounds, and it's like seeing your neighbor. If you hear that your neighbor is pretty much beating up his wife or vice versa, are you going to stay there? Are you going to say like, yeah, it's your problem? No, you have to be active, or at least pronounce yourself that, hey, this is bad. This shouldn't be happening, because in that house, in every house, everyone should be equals. Yeah, it's a necessary issue to address, because it not only happens in America, but it happens everywhere around the world with so many minorities.
Within our own communities.
Exactly.
It's colorism, it's crazy. I think about the racial disparity, and it's not really racial disparity. It's like literally racism in our own, like in Black communities, and not just in America, but various places of Africa, Latin communities. And I know that to be true, because I remember I have tons of Latin friends, and they would talk to me about being light versus dark, and it's the same thing in other Black communities, light versus dark, which we call colorism, and it's such an issue, and that was imposed really because of Western culture.
That doesn't mean that we cannot raise above all that. I mean, our grandparents were raised like that, our parents, we were, but there is a time, the time is now, like practically we are living in the future. We are living like, modern society, and it's about time that this has to stop. Like whatever is what you have thought in the past, maybe because you thought like that, maybe you were taught to think like that. It's in the past. Now it's time to start thinking differently.
I really agree with that. And it begins with us, but it also doesn't begin with us. I really feel we need our counterparts. I really feel that, we've been watching it on television here, sitting in the comfort of our nice apartment, watching on television and watching on social media, on our cell phones, of the protests happening, in America. And it is so overwhelming when you can see, some of these white people banding together to say, hey, we need to be a shield to Black and brown participants in these protests. And so we need to stand in between them and the police, because the police won't touch us. And to hear that is like, it's like, wow, that's amazing. That's so wonderful that they can do that. And at the same time, it gives me the creeps. It just gives chills down my spine to think they know that they can sacrifice themselves like that, and they won't be touched. And at the very least, the police will be accountable for anything that may happen to them. So they're okay to do that,
Because they're not, they're risking it, but not at the same degree that would be for a person of color. No, it won't be. And like now that you mention it, it's so blatant, the problem. It's so in your face that you can, like, not only for these protests, the video last week about this lady in Central Park. Oh God, the nerve of doing that. And she wasn't ashamed when the guy started like filming her. She just continued, because you know what?
She can.
And she could, and nothing happened to her. And despite all the social repercussions, but
she got fired, I think.
She got fired, and the dog was removed.
And the dog, thank God.
But the thing is that there you can see that is so ingrained in the people's psyche somehow.
Yep.
That I am here
And you are there.
and you are there. And sometimes, maybe, again, it's not their fault. I'm not justifying, but it's not their fault. But it is because that's the way they have been raised.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, you have to be accountable for whatever belief that you have, and you have to say, hey, this is obviously wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how you make it stop and say like, hey, no, what I'm doing is absolutely wrong.
But isn't it crazy? But if you don't know that you're doing something wrong, do you know that you're doing something wrong?
Okay, then there are two types of people, because I would like to believe that people, the majority of them, should be able to have a introspection, reflection of what are you doing and what are the consequences to others of what you do, even though you think it's normal.
That woman acted off of instinct. And,
yeah, right.
And she was like, I feel uncomfortable. And I'm in my right mind to say and behave in this way.
Yes, but the thing is that, and that will be for everyone to do it, not only white people, but everyone around the world, to say, okay, do I have any sort of thing that I do feel entitled to?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's revise, because according to all the Human Rights Declaration, everyone is equal. So why do you feel entitled to something? And she feel entitled to, like you said, this is unacceptable. I am blah blah, so this guy cannot tell me what to do, even though I know what I'm doing is wrong.
But the thing is I literally think she does not think it's wrong.
Oh, she does not.
I think this is a subconscious thing. It's a thing where she's just like, there's a black man here trying to tell me what to do. And this is my right to exercise what I need to do. I'm not doing anything wrong. And so therefore, I feel as if my life is being threatened. And so I'm going to call the police because he's doing something appropriate by videotaping me. I don't want him to. You know what I'm saying?
No,
I
yes.
feel like she had calculated that all in her mind. This is a smart woman. She's not just like,
random person.
No,
yes.
This was clearly a smart woman. And she's living in New York City. You see black people everywhere in New York City. So I think she is totally subconscious. I don't even think she realized what I'm not making an excuse for it. She's obviously a racist person, but I don't think she realizes that she's a racist person. I don't think she believes that she's a racist person. I think she's one of those white liberals who think that they're doing so much for disenfranchised communities, and she just got caught in her privilege without even realizing that she had privilege.
The type of savior complex.
That's it.
Oh God, the world doesn't deserve me, and I'm doing so much good for the community,
Yes.
and because of that,
Yes.
I'm allowed to do whatever I want. Oh,
Yes.
God. Oh God.
Or
that
one of
really-
those I have black friends.
Oh,
I have a black husband even, or I have black children. I love those people. Those people are like, I can't be racist because I have a black child, or I have black friends, or my pastor's, and it's just like, yikes. Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. Because racism is so deep. It is so complex because we don't even know, you don't even know, because we've had so much programming. We have so much we have so much systemic and racism that's been inbred in our communities for so long. Talking about it today, I just felt like I think we both have come to realize that silence is an action, and now we've got a platform here, and even if we have 5 listeners, what the fuck ever. This is for us, and one day when we're old as hell, we can replay these on YouTube if YouTube still exists, and be like, hey, show our kids we were on the right side of history, because you remember when this wasn't happening and that wasn't happening.
Yes, I agree. Like as an outsider, you could see that this was coming from a long time, and that it was necessary. Like you see news every day, and it's like, this is not possible. This is not right. And raising your voice and doing a protest is good. Is necessary. Is not. You can feel that. Yeah, maybe I'm out of control, but there is anger behind that.
Mm-hmm.
There is anger. These are people that are being on her. Like I will say, people should do an exercise and think, hey, what if this was happening to my community, to my family? How will I feel? Wouldn't I feel threatened? Wouldn't I feel like, I will do whatever I need to do to say, hey, I have to protect my family. This cannot be happening. If I see that this is happening to my friend, this is happening to anyone else,
Mm-hmm.
It happens. It happens, and it's sad that it did, that it went out a little bit violent, but then again, it's part of the movement. It had to happen.
It did.
It's sad, but it had to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It
was bound to happen, and it's so true. And I have friends. I have friends, who are like, oh, it was bad that George Floyd died. Is this a George? Yeah, George Floyd died, but the looting is not good. It's not good. This should not happen. And it's like that sheer comparison. You're talking about somebody's life
with something material.
Yeah, versus property, damaged property. And it's like, and also, they're also insinuating that the protesting is happening the looting is happening as a result of the protests. And it's like, yes, and also no, because as we're finding out, there are many people outside of these peaceful protests who are coming in and damaging property, and in the name of Black Lives Matters movement or whatever. But there are lots of angry white people who are coming in there and starting these things outside of I'm not talking about the extremist, right organizations that are coming in and causing a whole lot of crap for the Black Lives Matter movement, and the peaceful protest movement. But there are lots of angry whites who feel who feel disenfranchised, who feel lost, who feel completely abandoned by Trump, who they voted for or maybe didn't vote for, and are like, I have no money. I don't know what to do. The pandemic is killing me and my family and the people I love. I have to pay rent next week. And they're going crazy.
No.
People are it's not just about the Black Lives Matter movement. I feel it's about a whole lot of things happening. And I have a real problem with people being like, no, we really need a peaceful protest. Think about Martin Luther King, blah, blah, blah. It's like, they did a peaceful protest.
And no.
30 years ago. 30 years ago for the Los Angeles Rodney King. For Rodney King, who was beaten by those 4 police officers. Prior to we're talking about Black people have continuously done these peaceful protests and nothing has happened. And they're angry, but really angry is just a derivative. It's a substance. It's just a derivative of pain, of hurt. It's like, when will they be listened to? And it's like, if violence is what it is, then that is what it is. And if the looting is and I feel some kind of way about it because I'm a Christian person. I'm a Christian woman. I'm a spiritual woman. And I do believe that violence is not the answer. I do believe that in my whole being. However, how can you have the language of nonviolence, the language of unity, the language of peace, of forgiveness with someone who's oppressing you?
But one thing, like violence. Okay, there are different type of violence, I will say. These people, they're protesting. And again, going back, this is material stuff. Mm-hmm. Things that can be replaced. This is a way to express yourself and say, hey, this is wrong and this is how I'm expressing myself. These are not people, they're not going to the streets with guns. Mm-hmm. They're not going to the streets threatening people.
That's true.
Or trying to, get into trucks and trying to run over them. These are not people that are trying to, I'm going to take the capital and I'm going to, on my state, maybe shot someone. They're not doing that. That for me is violence. These are people that they're not killing anyone and hurting people. They're just protesting. For me, although, we should not damage property, this is not violence. And it's not in a level that you cannot compare it. This is a way just to express yourself. Maybe it's not appropriate, but you cannot compare that. You cannot demonize these people that are protesting
for their lives.
Just for their lives, exactly. It's not like, oh, I want a haircut. Come on, no. This is something like they're fighting for their rights
to stay alive.
Exactly.
It's a status thing.
So I don't think that this should be considered as an extreme act of violence, or as someone wants to call them, Antifa.
Yeah,
like
Antifa.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. So now for me, honestly, for me, it's like it should be continuing, and it should not fall on the typical, I'm sorry to say it, but it's very much a typical American fashion that, you have a lot of like big fires that only last for a couple of weeks and then it's like, forget about it. This should be constant. They should continue. Mm-hmm. They should continue. The images you see on TV, as dreadful and scary they are, that's the face of the state of things now. You have to accept it, and it's not only in the States, it's all over the world. You have to take a direct look at what is going on and say like, the world is shit now. So it's not, I think it's necessary.
Yeah.
I will say.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's not. It's in defense. Yeah. It is in defense. It's in defense of protecting your own life, of wanting to live, and they're not. You're right. Like no one's coming there with guns, as far as we know. No one's coming there with guns. They're starting off as peaceful protest. It's a protest, and riots are happening. But it's like what else? What else do you do? What else can you do? And those people who are talking and judging these people and judging people for doing these things, it's like, don't judge what you can't understand. Don't judge. I had a friend of mine whom I love say like, yeah, but the rioting isn't right. Who do you expect is going to pay for all these damages? The taxpayer. And it's like that's your argument? More than anything, it's just hurtful, and then you get hurt, and then you get angry, and then I'm like, I wish I was there. I wish I was home to be able to be there. As much as I'd be scared as hell going out there, but I would, because when it's right, it's right, and when it's wrong, it's wrong, and if you can see this much fury, as you've pointed out, if you can see this much fury, something's wrong. Something's wrong. And those of you who are educating yourself and learning about some of these injustices or things that you had overlooked or not realized, even about yourself, the white privileges that you have that you don't even realize that you have. It's so important that you continue to educate yourselves and reevaluate and speak up in your own communities when other people are talking crazy shit, because this is how it is, this is how it starts, and this is where it begins in our communities, in our homes. Black people in America are grieving every day, and I shouldn't say in America, Black people all over the world are grieving every day, seeing these images of people getting hurt on a regular basis, dying, seeing these videos every other day. It really does something messed up to your mind. Waking up with anxiety in the middle of the night, it's a real burden to carry. And so it'd be really nice if all of our communities, not just, a few of us in our communities, all of our communities can do the little that we can do to change some things. And I'm sorry, but I don't agree with many people when they say, go to the polls and vote. Go to the polls and vote. I agree with that, yes, but that's secondary. That's second. Right now we have to deal with what's happening right in front of us. And the people who can are moving things, and it's so impressive. It's so impressive. Now, the George Floyd case has been handed over to the Attorney General of Minnesota, who was an active member on Bernie Sanders' campaign. So the way that's going to go. And that is necessary to bring some kind of healing to the people in America.
To know that there is justice and they can trust. They will know that they can trust the justice system, their governors, they need that. Not a set of politicians, but their government, and say, yeah, I feel safe here. I feel that I'm going to be heard and I'm going to be, once again, protected.
Thanks for listening. We want to know what you think.
Send us your comments and follow us on Twitter and Facebook
at #WannaCoffeePod.